morning, everyone! On this wonderful day, I am making a box. My wife asked me to make a box, so I am making a box. But I intend to make it as impractical as possible, just as a joke. It will be a giant box, incapable of anything. Let the fun begin. As the start, I got a piece of oak and cut it. My intent is to make it as a cube box, 8 inches for every dimension. So I made myself 4 pieces that were 8 inches by 7 3/4 of an inch, and another 6.5 by 6.5 inch piece for the bottom, and then another piece 8 inches by 8 inches, and that would be the lid. The box was going to be joined together using finger joints. Using a simple jig, I quickly cut the pieces out. There is a video I will be making on how to use this jig, because every time I have to use it, I forget how to use it, and then I have to waste time figuring it out. Anyways, once the finger joints were ready, it was also time to make the lid. For the lid, I chose to route out 1/2 inch from the bottom and 3/4 inch from the side so that it would be flush against the opening of the box. My hand slipped accidentally a little bit, but overall the lid looked very fine. Now that I had all my pieces ready, it was time to glue it all up. I started off first by gluing 3 sides together. One thing I didn't record there is actually me connecting and disconnecting joints over and over again in order to loosen them up a little bit. Originally they were so tight and very difficult to pry apart or even attach. So by jiggling them multiple times, I made it more manageable. Once the 3 sides were attached, I glued the bottom to it, and once the bottom was ready, I just attached the last side and voila! Box is glued up. Before clamping it, however, I made sure that the bottom was sitting perfectly flush with the box in order to minimize how much sanding I would have to do on it later on. And then I tightly clamped the whole thing and let it dry for 2 days. After 2 days, the box was very solid. It was time now to sand it. I started off as always by first using 80 grit to thoroughly sand any imperfections out. Once imperfections were gone, I used 100 to 200 grit to give it a shape, meaning that if anything was sticking out too much or was uneven, it would be sanded down. And then afterwards it was just zen sanding all the way to 800 grit. And now that the box was ready, it was time to let it drink some oil to make it more resistant to water. Not that anyone should be pouring water into it, but still. To my surprise, the box was actually watertight, or at least oil tight. Oak is very porous type of wood, so I really let it drink as much oil as it wanted. Applied a total of 3 coats of tung oil. I think I used about 1/2 liter of tung oil, surprisingly enough. It was on my second coat that I actually noticed that if I poured oil inside, it wouldn't be pouring out, so it was perfectly oil tight. And that's it! The box was ready. What could I have done to improve on it? I would say, first of all, route all of the finger joints a lot more slower in order to avoid splintering the wood at the edges, because in some places it looks like there's a crack, which in reality there isn't. Secondly, I would say to measure things a bit better. My box didn't end up being perfect cube and wasn't a perfect 8 inches all around. Overall, lesson for this box is to slow down and not do it as fast. Not my best work, since I believe if I didn't rush as much, I might have gotten a better result, but to untrained eye, it looks perfectly fine, I would wager. Overall, it is a decent oil-tight box, and it was completely useless, just as I intended for it to be. I guess one can use it to store rice inside? Actually, you know what? Let me know what you would use this box for. I'm actually curious to know. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider leaving a like and maybe subscribing. I try to release 1 video every week. If you have any comments, those are very welcome too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!